So apparently the music industry is in shambles, according to Lizzo. But let me tell you what else is going to be in shambles. I mean, if you follow the trends and you have a little bit of foresight, you can make this prediction as well. We all know how we humans in general, we just follow trends. We follow trends, everything that comes up, we tend to just discard of the old and want the new. So we jump on bandwagons and we abandon things that are tried and tested. And oftentimes it's because we're not given the full information on what exactly we're abandoning. And oftentimes, um, these companies and manufacturers, they spend a lot of money on research on how to frame things and how to present things in a way that may seem like it's to your benefit, but that's actually not. Case in point, Apple keeps on making the same phone. They dress it up differently, and millions of people will keep buying new Apple iPhones every time. Another case in point would be, the transition from analog TV to digital TV when it was sold to everyone as it's gonna give you better quality pictures, it's gonna be more convenient, more selections, and all of that. So a lot of people just gave up their analog TVs and we really had no choice but to give those up, the CRT TVs and all of that. They were just giving up, people just abandoned analog TV because they were pretty much forced to do that and coerced to do that. But the fact is that the hidden thing that wasn't shared to everyone was that doing that transition, analog TV was not. They could not monetize analog TV. They could not actually put this encryption on the analog signal. It would be pretty much impossible to do that. However, it was more feasible to use digital TV. Digital TV allowed encryptions. It allowed them to code the signal. So you need a decoder to decrypt that signal, and then they could monetize it, right? So that information was not shared fully, and also the transition was not smooth because now people had to get rid of their old TVs, the old investments that they had put into their big massive TVs, and transition to digital TVs, or to get a converter kit to allow them to do the conversion. The point that I'm getting at is that we jump on these bandwagons, we move to new technologies only to find out that, you know what, the old technologies had their own advantages. You can now see a lot of people going back to vinyl, physical formats, CDs are coming back, cassettes are on their way up. Film photography was quite popular. I think I would say that for film photography, the companies got a bit too greedy and they started raising the price during the pandemic, and that shot film photography in the foot because a lot of us who were really enthusiastic, the prices became untenable. I hope that that is fixed so that some of us can go back to film photography and in all earnest. But the point is that we are going through a period where a lot of people are going back to the old and finding out that the old technology is not as bad as they were framed out to be. So, back to this whole thing about the music industry. The music industry right now is dying because, we jumped on the digital bandwagon. It is all about digital and throwing out your CDs and going to digital and the convenience of streaming and all of that. But what was not communicated in that push by the record companies, especially, was the fact that, analog and physical formats allowed people to do a lot of copying and ripping and keeping the music for themselves in a way that it wasn't a good monetizing strategy, because once you bought the album, you owned it. You actually owned that physical copy, and a lot of us did a lot of ripping and more. We could actually rip it and put it on our digital play portable digital players and store the MP3 files or the WAV files on various computers and devices. I mean, I have a whole bunch of songs that I ripped from way back in the day. I still have them on multiple computers, right? And that's why physical formats were great. But then they sold us that, going into streaming is convenient. You can stream from anywhere. But what they didn't tell you was that with streaming, you also end up in that ether, I would say ether, where you actually don't own anything, and also you keep on paying a subscription fee. It's a subscription model. You're paying for something that you really don't own, and you keep paying in perpetuity. It's a really excellent model for the record companies and the streaming companies. Right? They make a ton of money from that, and you're hooked because you need to pay that subscription to be able to continue listening, and you actually don't own anything. And also, you also have to settle for lesser formats, lesser quality formats. And but yet, we thought that was the better model. But now a lot of people are finding out that CDs are excellent quality. You can get them for cheap now, and physical formats are all the rage again. So I can tell you, beyond this whole music industry, that they just got really greedy. They overextended themselves into this whole streaming model. A lot of people are finding out that streaming is not the best way to listen to music. And also, they got they got greedy even with that streaming model, to the point that even to watch a decent collection of, say, movies, you will have to subscribe to Hulu, to Disney Plus, to Netflix, to Prime. So you end up paying so much, so much money to all these subscriptions, only to be able to watch a decent amount of, movies, or listen to a good amount of music. But the alternative is you buy your own. You buy stuff for cheap. You can start making collections for yourself, and a lot of us are doing that now. So I think the next domino to fall would be this whole streaming model. I think the whole movie streaming thing might actually be on in next to fall. When people finally wake up and realize that they're spending way too much money on streaming and on digital formats that are really vaporware, if you ask me. And this was just a stream of consciousness.